I was so excited when my family threw me a graduation party. But when I opened the cake box, it said, "Congratulations, loser." My parents laughed like it was a joke. I didn't. I stood up, grabbed my things, and walked out, but not before doing this. 3 weeks later, they called me in a panic because, for the first time in my life, I thought my parents were proud of me. I walked into the house, and it was decorated, actual decorations. Blue and silver streamers. A big "Congratulations, Ryan" banner across the living room. There were people here, family, neighbors, even a few of my dad's work friends. And there was food. Real food. Not just takeout pizza thrown on the table like an afterthought. I had never seen them do this for me before. Not for anything. For Jake. Sure. When he got accepted into college, the first time, they threw him a huge celebration, invited all of his friends, even bought him a brand new laptop as a gift. When he failed out a year later, they still acted like he had done nothing wrong, never once raising their voices at him. But for me, nothing. No recognition, no celebrations. I was always the responsible one, the one who didn't need attention. That's what they told me every time I accomplished something. And yet, here I was, in a house decorated just for me. My mom pulled me into a hug, smiling like she actually meant it. "We're so proud of you, honey," she said, voice warm, affectionate. "This is a big deal." I blinked. I didn't even know how to react. I had spent so many years pushing down the disappointment of never being enough for them. And now, maybe things were changing. Maybe I had finally done something they could be proud of. My dad clapped me on the back, laughing. "First college graduate in the family, huh? Look at you." I grinned. For the first time in my life, I let myself believe. Maybe they saw me now. Maybe I was finally more than an afterthought. I spotted my brother in the corner of the room, scrolling through his phone, not paying attention to anything. Typical. But even that didn't bother me. Not today. Today was mine. Someone handed me a drink. A toast was made. People congratulated me, smiling, shaking my hand, asking me about my future plans. I was on cloud 9. Then they brought out the cake. It was big, expensive looking, the kind you order in advance from an actual bakery. My mom carried it in with a smile, setting it down in front of me. My dad grinned, nodding toward it. "Go on, take a look." I leaned in, still smiling, still feeling light, still believing in this moment. And then I read the words, "Congratulations, loser." My stomach dropped so fast it felt like I had been sucker punched. For a second, I thought, this can't be right. This has to be a mistake. Then I heard the laughter. It started with my dad, a chuckle at first, then a full laugh, like this was the funniest thing he had ever seen. My mom laughed too, trying to hide it behind her hand like it wasn't that bad. And Jake, he was dying, bent over, holding his stomach, practically wheezing. "Oh, come on," my dad said, seeing my face. "It's a joke." Jake smirked. "Damn, Ryan, don't look so shocked. You know it's funny." I felt like an idiot. A complete, utter idiot. Of course this wasn't real. Of course they weren't proud of me. Why would they be? Why would they change? I scanned the room. A few people looked uncomfortable, glancing at each other, but no one said anything. No one stood up for me. Not one person. I swallowed down the nausea rising in my throat, willing myself to stay composed. A joke. That's all I was to them. Something inside me settled. It wasn't anger, not in the way they expected. It wasn't sadness either. It was something sharper, something clearer. I picked up the glass in my hand and slowly, deliberately raised it. The room quieted slightly, everyone watching, waiting to see how I would react. I smiled. "To my family," I said, my voice smooth even, "for always being exactly who I thought you were." The laughter died down. "To this party," I continued, nodding toward the decorations, the cake. "So much effort, so much thought put into it. I'll never forget it." The silence stretched. My mom shifted uncomfortably. My dad's smile twitched. "And to the future," I said, lifting my glass slightly higher. "Because I've finally learned exactly how to treat you, the way you've always treated me." No one spoke. I held their gazes for just a second longer, let the tension thicken, let the unease settle into their bones. Then, I downed my drink in one go, set the glass down carefully on the table, and turned toward the door. I grabbed my bag, slung it over my shoulder. Before I walked out, I glanced back one last time. Jake was watching me now, the smirk on his face faltering slightly. My dad cleared his throat. "Oh, come on, Ryan, don't be dramatic. It's just a..." I smirked. Oh, and one more thing, but you'll figure it out soon enough. Then I walked out the door. No yelling, no outbursts, no tears, just silence. A thick, suffocating silence that followed me as I left. I didn't need to see their faces to know the confusion was already setting in. They were trying to brush it off, trying to tell themselves I was just being sensitive, that I'd get over it, that I'd come back. They had no idea what was coming, but they would. Soon enough, they would. I was never the son they wanted. Jake was. From the moment we were kids, it was obvious. He could do no wrong. He was the golden child, the favorite, the one my parents lit up for. The one they defended, protected, doted on. The one who got second, third, fourth chances, no matter how badly he screwed up. And me? I was the one they tolerated. I used to wonder why. What made him so much more deserving than me? What did he have that I didn't? I worked hard. I got good grades. I stayed out of trouble. I did everything right. And yet, I was the one they dismissed. It started small. When I was 6, I won a school spelling bee. I came home beaming, holding my little certificate, waiting for them to say something, anything. Jake had drawn some scribbles on a piece of paper that same day. My mom gushed over it, put it on the fridge, called him her little artist. My dad ruffled his hair, said he had real talent. I held out my certificate, hopeful. My dad glanced at it, unimpressed. Spelling? That's not a real skill. My mom smiled at me, but it was a distracted kind of smile. Oh, honey, that's nice. But don't brag, okay? I wasn't bragging. I just wanted them to see me. By the time I was 10, I had stopped trying. Jake got in trouble at school. The teacher was being unfair. Jake broke something in the house. It was an accident. Jake got bad grades. Not everyone's a nerd like Ryan. If I so much as rolled my eyes at them, I was being disrespectful. If I asked for something, I was being ungrateful. When Jake got into college, they threw him a massive party. When I got in, my dad barely looked up from his phone. I told myself I didn't care. It wasn't like I needed their approval, right? But some small, stupid part of me still hoped. Hoped that maybe, if I just kept my head down, if I worked hard, if I proved myself, one day they'd see me. One day they'd be proud. Then college came. I knew better than to expect them to help with tuition. I didn't even ask. I got a scholarship, took out loans, worked part-time to cover what I could. Jake, though? He barely made it through high school, and yet, when he got into a second-rate college, my parents were so proud. We'll help you with whatever you need, my mom had told him. And they did. Paid his tuition, bought him a car, sent him money every month. Jake partied his way through his first year, skipped classes, barely passed his exams. By the second year, he flunked out completely. And my parents, they never got mad at him. They never blamed him. They actually felt bad for him. It was too much pressure, my mom had said, shaking her head. We probably pushed him too hard. Pushed him. They handed him everything. But the real slap in the face? The part that made something in me finally snap? They started planning his second chance. They found another college, made calls, pulled strings to get him in again. They told him this time would be different. They told him they'd still support him, pay for what he needed, make sure he had an apartment close to campus. And then they told me I'd be co-signing his lease. Like it was a given. Like it was my responsibility to make sure Jake had a place to live while he got his second chance. You have good credit, my dad had said. It won't cost you anything, it's just a signature. I should have said no. But I didn't. I was so used to doing what they expected of me that the words were out of my mouth before I even thought about it. Yeah, fine. They barely even acknowledged it. Just assumed I'd fall in line, like always. Jake didn't say thank you. Didn't even acknowledge what I was doing for him. And that was the moment I realized. It would never stop. No matter what I did, I would never be enough for them. I could have walked the moon, and my dad would have shrugged, my mom would have smiled politely, and Jake would have cracked some joke about how I was trying too hard. It wasn't that they didn't see me. It was that they didn't care. And when I walked into that graduation party, and I saw the decorations, and I saw the banner, and I saw my mom's smile and my dad's handshake, and I thought, maybe this time is different. Maybe this time they're proud. And then they gave me that cake. And they laughed. And I knew. They would never respect me. But that was fine. Because after that night, they would never use me again. I walked out of that house, but not before I made one last call. Not before I did the one thing they never saw coming. Not before I made sure that in 3 weeks, they'd be the ones calling me, desperate, begging, realizing. They had finally pushed me too far. 3 weeks passed before they realized what I had done. At first, I ignored their calls. Not out of spite, well, maybe a little, but mostly because I didn't care. I had spent years jumping at their demands, answering every time they needed something, bending over backward to prove my worth to people who never gave a damn about me. So when the missed calls started piling up, when my mom left voicemail after voicemail, when Jake's texts went from "dude WTF" to "you need to fix this," I just let them sit there. Unread. Unanswered. I already knew why they were calling. And the longer I ignored them, the worse it got. Mom tried the concerned approach first. "Honey, something weird is going on with Jake's apartment. Can you call me?" Then came the fake confusion. "Ryan, did you forget something with the lease? The landlord called Jake and said you're not listed as his co-signer anymore." Then came Dad's pissed-off voicemails. "What the hell did you do? You gave your word. You need to fix this. Call me back." And finally, Jake. He didn't do the fake concern. Didn't try to be polite. He went straight to rage. "You screwed me over. Fix this now." I smiled when I read that one. 3 weeks ago, I had left that party with one last thing to do. I had gone straight to my car, pulled out my phone, and called the landlord's office. I had officially backed out as a co-signer. Just like that, Jake's lease was worthless. And now he was finding out the hard way. They had all assumed it was a done deal. I had already agreed, after all. I had always done what they expected, never questioned it, never fought back. They thought I was still that person, but they should have known better. Because the moment I saw that cake, I knew I was done being their doormat. And now, for the first time in their lives, they were facing real consequences. And it was beautiful. I finally answered the phone on day 22. I let my dad's number ring twice before picking up, then sat back, waiting for the explosion. It didn't take long. "What the hell did you do?" I pulled the phone away from my ear slightly, listening as he ranted. "You made a commitment. You gave your word. Your brother's lease is about to fall through, and you need to fix it now." I didn't say anything. Didn't argue. Didn't explain. Just let him burn himself out. Eventually, he realized I wasn't interrupting. He went quiet for a second, then his voice dropped into that low, dangerous tone. The one he always used when he wanted me to feel guilty. "You need to be a man and take responsibility." That almost made me laugh. Responsibility? Where was this speech when Jake failed out of school? When he wasted the money they threw at him? When he spent his entire life skating by on excuses? I exhaled slowly. Then I finally spoke. "I don't think I will." Silence. I could practically hear the disbelief crackling on the other end of the line. "What?" I said. I repeated, calm, steady. "I don't think I will." The silence stretched. Then, like a dam breaking. "You selfish little." I hung up. He called back immediately. I let it ring. Then Jake tried. I let that one go too. Then my mom. And this time I picked up. Because I already knew how this was going to go. She started soft. "Sweetheart, we need to talk." I hummed, unimpressed. "Do we?" She sighed, like I was being unreasonable. "I know you're upset. We all know that party didn't go how you wanted." I scoffed. "Is that what we're calling it? A party?" She ignored the sarcasm. "But this? This is serious, Ryan. Your brother's future is on the line." I almost laughed. His future? When had they ever cared about mine? I had clawed my way through school without their help. Worked myself to exhaustion. Took on loans. And where were they? Supporting Jake. And now they wanted me to sacrifice for him. Too? I kept my voice steady, measured. "I think Jake will figure something out." She bristled. "You know he can't get approved on his own." Sounds like a him problem. "Ryan," she tried again, a little sharper now, "this is what family does." "No," I said, and my voice finally lost its patience. "This is what I did. For years. And what did I get for it? A cake that said, 'Congratulations, loser.'" Silence. The first real silence. I let it sit there. Let her soak in it. Then I said softly, "And now, you're realizing how big of a mistake that was." Her breath hitched. "It was just a joke." I smiled. "So is this." Then I hung up. I stared at my phone for a long time, waiting, half expecting another call. But none came. For the first time in my life, they had nothing to say. Because they knew. They knew I was serious. And they knew they had finally pushed me too far. But the best part? This wasn't even the end. Because they still hadn't realized just how badly they had screwed up. And soon, they'd be calling again. Begging. Because I had done more than just cancel a cosign. I had walked away from all of it. And without me, their golden boy was about to lose everything. They didn't call again for a few days. I wasn't surprised. My dad had probably ranted and raged about how I was an ungrateful disappointment. My mom had probably cried about how I was tearing the family apart. And Jake? Jake had probably sulked, throwing a tantrum because, for the first time in his life, he wasn't getting what he wanted. But I knew it wasn't over. Because there was still one last thing they hadn't realized yet. And when they did, that's when the real panic would start. I didn't have to wait long. On a Friday evening, as I was settling in with a beer and some peace and quiet, my phone buzzed. Jake. I smirked and let it ring. He tried again. And again. By the fifth call, I finally answered, letting my voice stay relaxed. Thought we were done here. His voice came through loud, frantic. What the hell did you do? I took a slow sip of my beer. Be more specific. The money, Ryan. The tuition money. It's gone. Ah, there it was. I smiled. Because this was the part they hadn't figured out yet. See, it wasn't just the co-signing I had pulled out of. It was everything. I had been helping them financially for years. Covering little things, making up for missed payments, loaning money I was never repaid. And when they started planning Jake's second attempt at college, they casually suggested I pitch in. You're doing well now, my dad had said, like it was nothing. You should help your family. I hadn't agreed. But they took it for granted that I would. They assumed, as always, that I'd fall in line. So I did the one thing they never expected. I cut them off. Completely. The tuition deposit they were expecting from me never happened. The payments I used to make on their behalf? Gone. The quiet financial safety net I had unknowingly been for them? Vanished. And now, they were drowning. Jake had lost his apartment. Now he was losing his second chance at school. Because without my money, without my help, without my credit, he had nothing. And I had never felt lighter. Ryan, you don't understand. Jake was still ranting in my ear. The school called. They said the payment never went through. I don't have enough to cover it. I'm about to lose my spot. I let out a low hum. Damn. That sucks. Silence. Then his voice sharpened. Fix it. That made me laugh. Actually laugh. It was incredible, really, how deep his entitlement ran. Even now, even after everything, he still thought I owed him something. You're serious? I said, shaking my head. You said you would help, he snapped. No, I corrected. You assumed I would. Big difference. He spluttered. Mom and Dad said. I cut him off. Oh, I'm sure they did. But see, I don't care what Mom and Dad said. The silence stretched. Then, quieter, he tried a different angle. Ryan, you know this is my last chance, right? There it was. The desperation. The realization that he was actually screwed. I leaned back, letting my voice stay calm. Yeah, I know. He swallowed. So, I said, dragging out the word. You'll figure something out. That was what my dad had said to me when he drained my college fund. It was what they had always said when I needed something, when I struggled, when I fought my way through life without their help. And now, they could have a taste of it too. Jake finally lost his temper. You're such a bitter piece of shit. You're doing this just to punish me. No, I said, my voice smooth even. I'm doing this because I finally learned how to treat you the way you treat me. I let that sink in. Then I hung up. The next day, it was my mother. She was crying before I even said hello. Ryan, she sniffled. We need to talk. I sighed. No, we don't. Jake is going to lose his spot, she said, her voice thick with tears. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. She took a deep breath. You're punishing all of us for a stupid joke. I smiled. No, Mom. I'm finally just treating you exactly how you've always treated me. She gasped softly, like that actually hurt her. And for the first time, I realized she wasn't just calling for Jake. She was calling for herself, too. Because without my financial support, they were struggling. All those little things I used to cover, all the times I bailed them out without realizing it, now that I wasn't there, they were actually feeling the consequences. You have to forgive us, she tried. We're family. I let out a small, amused breath. Funny. You only say that when you need something. She hesitated. Ryan, please. I could hear it in her voice now. The genuine panic. It wasn't just Jake's second chance at school that had collapsed. Their entire way of life had. Because I had walked away. Because I wasn't coming back. Because they had finally pushed me too far. I let the silence drag for just a moment longer. Then, finally, I spoke. I don't owe you anything, I said, my voice steady final. Not anymore. Then, for the last time, I hung up. I never spoke to them again after that. They tried, of course. The calls went on for months, the guilt trips, the fake apologies, the pleas for one last favor. But I had made my choice. And for the first time in my life, I chose me. Jake never went back to school. The deposit deadline passed, and he lost his spot. My parents couldn't come up with the money in time, and since they had burned through all their resources trying to support him, there was no backup plan. I heard from a relative that he had to move back home, stuck under the same roof as our parents. A full-grown adult, a college dropout with no degree, no job, and no future prospects. It was poetic, really. For years, I had been the one they underestimated, the one they ignored, the one they mocked. And now, I was the one who walked away. And they were the ones left behind.